Forget everything you have heard about the Nancy Guthrie disappearance because tonight changes everything. Before we even dive into the latest developments, I want you to let one single number sink in: 41 days. That is exactly how long an 84-year-old grandmother, who literally needs daily heart medication just to survive, has vanished without a trace. 41 entire days. As we sit here right now, there are absolutely no arrests, 0 named suspects, and not a single press briefing from the lead agency since February 5th. We are looking at 36 solid days of total radio silence from the Pima County authorities. But that all just shifted. A former Federal Bureau of Investigation operative, someone who dedicated her life to cracking these exact types of mysteries, just dropped a public bombshell this week that left the true crime world completely stunned. 4 simple words. A phrase she completely avoided using throughout the past 41 days of monitoring this nightmare. She simply typed out a glass half full. I am about to break down her exact statement, along with the hidden meaning behind it. I will also explain precisely why every single shred of verified proof in this entire probe aligns perfectly with her theory. However, you absolutely must digest the hard facts first, because the moment you truly grasp what these detectives are secretly holding behind closed doors at this very second, that specific phrase will not just come across as blind optimism. It will serve as the only rational takeaway drawn directly from the verified timeline of this tragedy. Do not go anywhere, because right in the middle of this breakdown, I am unveiling a massive detail that practically every major news network has completely ignored. 2 of the most highly respected criminal justice experts in the nation dropped a massive hint regarding what really went down on that front porch. And it is going to shatter your entire perspective on this mystery. The expert in question is Jennifer Coffindaffer. We are not talking about some random podcast host here, nor is she just another internet sleuth trying to kill time between commercial breaks. This woman is a veteran federal agent who actually operated within the very same tactical framework that is currently hunting down the monster who took Nancy Guthrie. She has been openly monitoring this investigation since the very beginning, frequently dropping her insider knowledge on social media. She has done major interviews with Newsweek, featured on nationwide television networks, and built a rock-solid reputation for delivering the brutal truth about what is actually happening instead of sugarcoating things. Back when detectives failed to identify that mystery car caught on a doorbell camera near the kidnap zone, she flat-out stated that the failure was a massive red flag. The moment Sheriff Nanos publicly admitted they were hitting roadblocks with the genetic evidence, she tackled the issue without holding back. There is absolutely zero sugarcoating with her. Not once has she ever pretended an arrest was imminent when the trail was truly cold. So the moment she types out a glass half full and hints that detectives are closing in, you must realize the sheer weight of that statement coming from someone with her specific background. She is decoding a hidden sequence, a highly deliberate chain of events. Now, I am going to break down every single clue within that sequence for you, step by step, until her exact takeaway becomes the only logical outcome left. During a live national broadcast on the Today Show back in the first week of March, Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos looked straight into the camera and firmly told the network that his detectives were locking in on a target. Pay extremely close attention to his exact phrasing, definitely closer to zeroing in on the shadow caught on those security tapes. Meaning it is not just a mere possibility. He absolutely refused to use the phrase cautiously optimistic, choosing to say definitely instead, which is a massive deal because authorities simply never throw that term around during live federal manhunts. I have honestly spent quite a bit of time quietly wondering if poor Nancy might have crossed paths with a repeat murderer, because the head of the department assured the public that the net is definitively tightening around someone. What is your take on Sheriff Nanos aggressively insisting that his task force is completely on the verge of locking up a primary suspect? Former federal intelligence expert Jennifer Daubler, a veteran who dedicated 13 solid years purely to gathering high-level data inside the agency. She went on the record with Newsweek to emphasize that his wording was extremely unusual for a sitting sheriff, which hits the nail right on the head. When a top-ranking commander breaks standard protocol while discussing a mystery of this magnitude, it is completely intentional. A different retired federal operative provided an alternative translation of that interview, and, honestly, it is the absolute key to unlocking the true status of this massive manhunt. Anytime seasoned detectives publicly declare they are closing the gap while actively mentioning fresh leads, it heavily implies they are entirely done filtering out garbage rumors and are actively locking down targets using digital footprints, verified alibis, and hard science. The gathering phase is officially over. That kind of intense rhetoric absolutely never comes from a federal task force that is just spinning its wheels. That is the undeniable sound of a trap securely snapping shut. Now brace yourself for a massive detail that nearly every single major news network has gotten completely wrong, despite it being arguably the biggest operational shift in this entire mystery. During those initial panic-filled weeks, the federal footprint down in Tucson was absolutely staggering. Boasting hundreds of deployed personnel, they had a 24-hour mobile headquarters operating non-stop. But that massive public spectacle eventually vanished when they shifted the main hub straight up to Phoenix. Naturally, practically every single media source that reported on the transition used the exact same depressing headline: the trail had gone ice cold. The general public blindly assumed funding and manpower were being quietly drained away. But that lazy narrative could not be further from the actual truth. 4 elite Pima County detectives and a ranking sergeant were just officially sworn into a federal task force and permanently embedded at the local bureau headquarters, explicitly tasked with solving the Nancy Guthrie nightmare. A dedicated strike team of 4 elite detectives and a seasoned sergeant is hunting down this solitary mystery. Coffindaffer recently broke down this exact setup, painting a picture of a blazing hot investigation where federal agents, brilliant analysts, and Pima County deputies are aggressively chasing down every single solid clue without losing momentum. This massive manhunt did not shrink simply because they hit a dead end or ran dry on clues. The operation tightened its perimeter strictly because investigators have successfully filtered out the noise to lock onto the handful of clues that actually hold the truth. Make no mistake, that is absolutely not a sign of surrender. It is pure, laser-sharp precision. Back on March 10th, Coffindaffer took to X with a massive question, asking why Sheriff Nanos was actively rejecting highly skilled civilian tracking teams, sparking rumors that authorities might be on the brink of an arrest. Could it be that investigators already know Nancy's exact fate, meaning they are just trying to avoid burning through the precious time and energy of those volunteer organizations? That specific theory is exactly what sparked her wildly optimistic online statement, a perspective that absolutely demands our complete attention and understanding. The United Cajun Navy is an incredibly well-organized nonprofit organization boasting an undeniable history of stepping up during massive recovery missions. They actually handed Sheriff Nanos a massive 41-page tactical blueprint featuring cutting-edge heat-seeking drones alongside 25 highly specialized tracking dogs. Their pitch included meticulously planned desert searches led by hardened experts deeply familiar with that brutal landscape, proving it was a deeply serious and rigorously detailed tactical proposal. The authorities fired back with just a single dismissive line, stating that this type of operation needs to remain in the hands of the real experts. You can really look at that blunt rejection in one of 2 ways, with the first being pure political ego from a sheriff fiercely guarding his own jurisdiction. The alternative perspective matches Coffindaffer's exact theory, which suggests that conducting massive physical sweeps across that brutal desert terrain might actually be over. Such tactics are likely no longer the main priority, considering the entire operation has dramatically shifted from merely looking for clues to rapidly closing the net on a target. When you already hold the map to your final destination, deploying heat-tracking drones over barren wastelands becomes completely obsolete. What you genuinely need at that stage are brilliant investigators hunched over desks, quietly validating those final critical clues right before springing the trap. Authorities quietly handed Annie Guthrie's car back to her relatives, a massive bombshell unearthed by Coffindaffer that the mainstream media completely failed to highlight. During the chaotic opening days of this mystery, police systematically seized several different cars tied to the primary individuals involved. That dragnet obviously included the ride belonging to Savannah's sister, Annie Guthrie, which is completely normal protocol for a case like this. The fact that they finally gave that ride back signals one massive, undeniable truth to anyone familiar with criminal investigations. The forensic teams have completely drained that car of every single usable clue, seamlessly weaving those microscopic details right into their master theory. The cops took exactly what they were looking for, handed the property over, and are now steadily chewing through their mountain of collected proof. This entire operation is absolutely plowing ahead, proven by federal agents showing back up in Nancy Guthrie's community for another intense wave of neighborhood interviews around mid-March. Almost every news network painted that return trip as cops grasping at straws. But that interpretation could not possibly be further from the truth. We can look directly at the priceless insight provided by retired federal agent Jason Pack. This key player, who famously compared uncovering that critical security video to pulling a needle from a haystack, perfectly explained the real reason behind these repeat neighborhood visits. During the chaotic first 48 hours of door knocking, detectives are usually flying blind with sloppy schedules. But those blurry windows eventually snap into crystal clear focus. Once digital pings roll in, big box store receipts are scrutinized, and specific wardrobe choices are tracked all the way back to the cash register. Everything shifts. The sequence of events shrinks down to the minute, transforming a completely forgettable comment from a neighbor 3 weeks prior into the ultimate smoking gun. Welcome to the incredible reality of retroactive police work, where raw data scooped up on day one rarely reveals its explosive secrets right away. However, as detectives stack up freshly verified facts, those random, floating breadcrumbs suddenly snap together to form a brilliant, terrifying picture. Those federal agents hit that exact street a second time, strictly because they are now armed with absolute certainty about what they need to find. You are not watching detectives flailing in the dark. You are witnessing a flawlessly executed surgical strike. I actually have to pause right here and reveal a massive blind spot, because what comes next is the single biggest bombshell that the mainstream media completely ignored. Two of the most highly decorated criminal experts looking at this mystery independently stumbled upon a terrifying theory that will completely shatter your entire understanding of that porch encounter. Do not look away right now, because we need to talk about CNN's top-tier crime and intelligence expert, John Miller, long before he was on television. This guy was actively running the massive anti-terror and intelligence divisions for the New York Police Department. Prior to that legendary run, he was literally calling shots at the FBI and even served as a massive heavyweight in national intelligence. The man is an absolute titan with 2 Peabody trophies and 11 Emmy wins under his belt. Right at the 1-month anniversary, he dropped a massive deep dive on this mystery containing what is arguably the most mind-blowing and crucial observation ever shared with the public. Listen very closely, because I am going to read you his exact, unfiltered statement. He suggested there is a massive chance this nightmare started as a calculated house raid, completely derailed, and rapidly morphed into a hostage-for-cash situation as the attacker scrambled to adapt. I need to tear that specific quote apart piece by piece, simply because every single syllable holds a terrifying amount of weight. He specifically called it a calculated raid, purposely separating it from a random robbery. Picture the absolute terror of a home invasion, a brutal violation where both the sanctuary and its occupant become the ultimate targets. In these nightmares, the occupant is usually factored into the scheme to be manipulated, brutalized, or taken captive. But this specific operation derailed entirely. We are not talking about a minor hiccup, but rather an absolute, catastrophic failure. Whatever dark goal that disguised intruder meant to achieve during those 41 minutes was completely obliterated by the grim reality of what unfolded right there on the front steps. Forced into a corner, the perpetrator frantically reconstructed the narrative, twisting the very nature of the offense after the dust had settled. The sinister script they ended up following looked absolutely nothing like the blueprint they originally designed. Crushed beneath unimaginable stress, the assailant scrambled to pivot, making split-second choices to justify the unfolding disaster because their initial window of opportunity had violently slammed shut. Their entire playbook went out the window. The primary objective was instantly off the table. Suddenly, self-preservation required a completely different strategy than the one they brought with them. This is exactly when Miller dropped a massive bombshell, pointing straight to the bloodstains outside that front door. That grim discovery powerfully suggests that no matter what this trespass was supposed to be, the entire operation flew off the rails incredibly fast. It all went south with terrifying speed. That crimson stain is the ultimate equalizer. It serves as undeniable physical proof that the perpetrator was forced to completely flip the script. Think about why those extortion letters were blasted out to news networks rather than being quietly delivered to the grieving relatives. The answer is that the author held absolutely zero leverage to actually broker a deal. Across the board, legitimate abductions driven by financial gain always rely on strictly confidential communications. A secure, private line gets opened. There is always a callback number, a designated exchange spot, and a clear-cut method to hand over the cash to ensure the victim returns safely. That is the standard protocol. It has practically been the rulebook since the dawn of time. Yet, none of that standard procedure materialized in this bizarre scenario. Instead, the initial threat landed on the desks at TMZ, along with a couple of local Tucson broadcasting networks. The message demanded a staggering $6 million transferred via Bitcoin. It laid out a strict ticking clock. However, it provided absolutely zero avenue for the loved ones to reach out. The message lacked a reply address, offered no contact digits, and outlined zero instructions for a handoff. Over at CNN, Miller painted the picture of a strictly unilateral broadcast. An extortion demand that completely blocks off any form of response fundamentally ceases to be a negotiation tactic. It simply transforms into a cold, hard declaration. So, why did the chatter just vanish into thin air the second that time limit expired? Quite frankly, because striking a bargain was never actually on the table. Those terrifying letters were never part of the original agenda. Miller frames the entire correspondence as a desperate scramble to dress up an utter catastrophe as a business deal, tossing the authorities a wild goose chase regarding a captive individual and a hefty payout, purely to mask the grim reality of what likely went down on that patio. Miller posed a rather blunt question to the audience. Is it plausible that an attacker might forge a kidnapping demand to camouflage a botched break-in where the homeowner suffered catastrophic injuries, all just to rescue their ruined operation? Rescue it? Really? The intrusion crashed and burned, prompting the perpetrator to manufacture those letters in a frantic bid to pull some shred of success from the wreckage. Now, I am by no means declaring that Nancy Guthrie has passed away. Authorities have deliberately stopped short of making that devastating official pronouncement. In fact, right up until the end of February, her loved ones firmly maintained their hope that she was still breathing. Detectives continue to actively work the case, and a substantial bounty remains completely up for grabs. Just this week, retired federal operatives Coffindaffer and Bryington hinted that authorities might be closing in on a suspect, all while working under the core assumption that Nancy survived the ordeal. Yet, the chilling alternative presented independently by Miller, alongside seasoned intelligence veteran Tracy Walder, points to the structural reality of an offense that likely had absolutely nothing to do with taking a captive. It appears instead to be a completely different atrocity that was merely dressed up to look like an abduction once the smoke cleared. Should that theory hold water, it fundamentally means the culprits never actually cared about squeezing $6 million out of Savannah Guthrie. Their sole objective was simply dodging the law and escaping into the night. Right now, I need to walk you through the verified physical description of the perpetrator, because this exact moment is where the guesswork ends and hard evidence takes over. Veteran behavior analyst and former federal supervisor Jim Clemente took a magnifying glass to the porch security video that the Bureau dropped on the 10th of February. His detailed observations are thoroughly verified, having been solidly backed up by entirely separate teams of forensic specialists. A distinct patch of ink clearly flashes on the assailant's right forearm in the recording. Speaking to Fox News Digital, Clemente stressed that verifying this mark will serve as a massive filter, allowing detectives to rapidly clear or target specific individuals. Body art simply does not wash off. Those designs are entirely unique identifiers. They catch the eye during routine daily activities. Anyone in your inner circle is going to spot them constantly. Law enforcement head nanos went on the record to verify that the tape clearly highlights a piece of jewelry wrapped around the attacker's smallest finger, pushing right through the heavy fabric of their glove. Nanos didn't mince words, stating emphatically, "I can spot it clear as day. I am looking right at a band sitting on that smallest digit, Such an incredibly specific piece of jewelry is a dead giveaway, meaning an acquaintance would instantly clock the suspect upon seeing those federal snapshots. You can also clearly make out the dark hair of a mustache peeking out just under the hem of that winter disguise. The distinct curvature, the sheer thickness, and the prominent angle of his brow line easily show through the fabric. During her sit-down with Newsweek, Coffindaffer broke down the importance of these 4 exact physical traits. She did not beat around the bush with her evaluation. When you combine the jewelry, the ink, the wardrobe, the brow shape, and the facial hair, it is an absolute certainty that someone out there can put a name to this face. Clemente's comprehensive rundown paints the picture of a right-hand dominant amateur, most likely hovering somewhere in his 30s or 40s. The guy totally failed to spot the digital eye watching the door. While he tried to think on his feet, he ultimately left a trail of breadcrumbs right on that porch. His sloppy attempt at concealing his identity heavily implies that he undoubtedly dropped critical genetic markers at the site of the attack. This wasn't just a random act, someone had a meticulous blueprint that completely unraveled when they hit a roadblock, and panic always breeds mistakes. The top cop on the case, Sheriff Nanos, has zeroed in on the exact 25-liter Ozark Trail hiking bag strapped to the perpetrator as their biggest smoking gun right now. Detectives managed to pull every single receipt from Walmart for that exact model of bag bought within the last few months. We're talking about a massive digital footprint, every location, timestamp, and payment method, if plastic was swiped for this item anywhere nationwide. Law enforcement has the receipt. Whoever made the purchase left their name right in the ledger. The corporate giant itself verified they handed these files over to the authorities. On top of the paper trail, detectives have been poring over hours of security video pulled from big box locations area-wide. They are watching every single checkout lane, recording inside any shop that moved this specific piece of merchandise. It sounds like an overwhelming mountain of footage to sift through, yet it will inevitably narrow down to a handful of solid conclusions. They will either pin a name to the swipe, or discover the gear was bought with physical bills or scored secondhand online. The sheriff acknowledged these hurdles are on the table. However, he let slip another crucial detail. The primary detective heading up the task force is sitting on key facts intentionally kept out of the media spotlight. Hearing a statement like that is incredibly telling. It serves as a calculated hint, letting us know the official narrative has huge missing pieces. And those hidden details are exactly what will bring this manhunt to a close. Right now, detectives are attacking this from 3 distinct angles all at once: mobile tracking, retail sales, history, and apparel origins are all in play. Plus, any gadget pinging around the Catalina foothills from the evening of January 31st through the morning of February 1st left a digital trail. Network towers recorded the traffic. Connection times were logged, and major telecoms vaulted all that GPS history. Federal agents have officially demanded every single bit of that telecom data. Tech specialists are busy matching network activity from the night of the crime with signals picked up around January 11th, which is exactly when a local spotted a shady figure seemingly scoping out the victim's property. Any mobile phone catching a signal on both the 11th of January and the 1st of February immediately becomes a massive red flag. A burner or unknown phone showing up once and vanishing forever right after is exactly what they want to track down. Ex-federal investigator Joseph Jalone recently mentioned to the press that digital communications, internet history, and security cameras are the absolute best tools for blowing this mystery wide open. Every single one of those methods is currently being deployed. They are working around the clock. While lab techs have officially fired up the advanced genetic family tree testing on the biological evidence, the Bureau publicly backed this up. This is the exact same cutting-edge science that unmasked the Golden State Killer and ultimately took down Brian Kohberger in the infamous Idaho tragedy. Scientists take the suspect's genetic code and run it through massive consumer ancestry websites to see who shares similar traits. Should any cousin or distant kin happen to spit in a tube for one of these online services, detectives will get a hit, build out a sprawling family web, and zero in on the killer. Their only real enemies here are the ticking clock and a lack of public swabs. If nobody in the perpetrator's bloodline ever used a commercial testing kit, this specific avenue might turn into a dead end. That hurdle is a widely accepted truth. However, biological tracing is merely a single lane on a multi-lane highway of current police work. Hitting a snag in one department will never derail the momentum of the entire task force. Former federal profiler Maureen O'Connell painted a brilliant picture of the mounting stress surrounding this manhunt, giving us a metaphor that has completely captivated the true crime community. Her exact words were, "If a crew pulled this off, which I truly believe they are roasting in an air fryer right now, just waiting to see which rat scrambles out first." The attacker rolled up carrying a two-way radio, a holstered firearm, and a stuffed 25-liter utility bag. Securing all that tactical gear took serious forethought and hours of planning long before stepping foot on that property, meaning somebody close definitely witnessed the buildup or watched him walk out the door. Somebody had to see him return. Coffindaffer told reporters the most realistic path to an arrest involves an acquaintance spilling the truth. Perhaps a furious girlfriend ready to talk. Or maybe a relative does the math and realizes that $1.2 million in reward money easily outweighs the burden of protecting a monster. Ex-federal operative Andrew Bringle backed up this exact theory from the viewpoint of putting someone behind bars. Massive mysteries unravel the second an accomplice gets cold feet and decides to flip. It literally takes a single person dialing the authorities. The Bureau's hotline has been flooded with well over 23,000 messages. Upward of 700 were deemed highly promising by analysts. Each individual phone call ratchets up the anxiety on a person who is barely keeping their dark secrets together. Carrying that kind of guilt for 6 weeks doesn't fade away. It multiplies exponentially, which is why experts keep comparing this exact dynamic to another infamous tragedy. We are talking about Bryan Kohberger, the man accused of slaughtering 4 college kids in Idaho back in November of 2022. Who executed a chillingly methodical scheme, left barely a trace, and strutted around for weeks post-slaughter, fully convinced he had outsmarted the entire justice system. But then the genetic results hit the desks. The mobile tracking lined up perfectly, and by January 2023, roughly 5 weeks post-massacre, armed units swarmed his family's property out in Pennsylvania and started digging through the trash. They pulled a discarded cotton swab carrying his dad's biological material, and the game was completely up right around week 5 of the investigation. Now, we are currently navigating week 6 of the Nancy Guthrie manhunt. Labs are actively working the genetic samples, and tech specialists are aggressively tearing into the mobile data. The digital breadcrumbs from Walmart are secured, and investigators are aggressively hunting down those specific garments. Moreover, a seasoned federal operative, someone notorious for keeping a cool head under pressure, is officially weighing in. For the very first time in 41 agonizing days, this expert is changing her perspective entirely. She sees the strategic shifts within the Bureau and actually feels genuinely optimistic about their progress. Let us break down the reality of the situation. This specialized unit is completely mobilized and laser-focused, operating out of the federal branch in Tucson. A dedicated crew of 4 seasoned investigators and their commanding officer are working exclusively on solving this abduction. Authorities have officially pieced together a comprehensive physical profile of the monster responsible. They are hunting a man in his 30s or 40s, uniquely identified by a wrist tattoo, dark facial hair, distinctively arched eyebrows, and a ring worn underneath his gloves. Behind closed doors, specialized cyber teams are furiously tearing through mountains of electronic evidence across several concurrent investigations. That staggering $1.2 million bounty, combined with 6 relentless weeks of federal heat, is absolutely crushing anyone linked to the perpetrator. Someone definitely knows the dark truth. Volunteer rescue crews and local civilian tracking parties have officially been ordered to stand down. According to veteran insiders who used to command these exact types of federal operations, dismissing those volunteer groups means the hunt is finished and a tactical strike is imminent. Looking at the evidence through entirely different investigative lenses, 2 retired federal profilers recently echoed the exact same conclusion within days of each other. They feel extremely close to an arrest. John Miller, a former top-tier counterterrorism official and federal assistant director, pointed to the bloodstains at the entryway as the most crucial piece of the puzzle. He firmly believes those gruesome stains prove that the attacker's original blueprint, completely unraveled, the very second he reached the house. Everything that happened next, from the ransom letters to the sudden lack of communication, was likely an elaborate smokescreen designed to conceal a murder, rather than a genuine hostage scenario. Leaning on years of elite intelligence work with both federal and global defense agencies, Tracy Walder delivered a 4-word assessment that carries the immense weight of her entire career. She claimed the attack was far too precise to be a random act of violence. The intruder clearly mapped out the surrounding streets and spent considerable time watching the property. This predator was undoubtedly driven by a twisted fixation or a deep-seated thirst for revenge aimed squarely at Savannah Guthrie. To be abundantly clear, neither expert explicitly stated that Nancy Guthrie has passed away, and I completely refuse to jump to that tragic conclusion either. We must remember the agonizing pain of her real family members, specifically Savannah. Along with Cameron and Annie, these desperate children have bravely faced the harsh media spotlight to plead for their mother's safe return. They have left beautiful floral tributes at her doorstep, attaching heartbreaking notes that declare their family's love will continue burning brightly through all of this darkness. My sole intention here is to clearly outline exactly where the hard facts and the official law enforcement indicators are leading us today. I am simply echoing the professional opinions that 2 retired federal agents have openly shared 41 days into this horror. Cuffs might finally be slapped on a suspect, especially with that massive $1.2 million payout. If you have any information, immediately dial 1-800-CALL-FBI to leave a totally secure and nameless tip. Nancy Guthrie desperately requires her daily prescriptions. Her devastated loved ones are begging for her safe return. Out there in the real world, someone is currently walking around with the exact coordinates of her location. They are staggering under the crushing guilt of 41 agonizing days, knowing that a life-changing $1.2 million awaits on the other end of the line. Somebody has the answers. The disappearance of Nancy Guthrie reminds us that behind every headline is a real human life, a grieving family, and a community searching for truth. This case is not just about mystery or investigation, it is a powerful lesson about awareness, responsibility, and the value of human compassion. First, it teaches us how fragile safety can be. A home is supposed to be a sanctuary, yet tragedies sometimes happen in the very places where people feel most secure. This reminds us to stay vigilant, to look out for our neighbors, and to never ignore suspicious behavior. Community awareness can save lives. Second, the case highlights the incredible dedication of investigators who refuse to give up. Detectives, analysts, and federal agents continue working tirelessly, piecing together digital clues, forensic evidence, and thousands of tips. Their persistence shows us the importance of patience and determination when seeking justice. Most importantly, it reminds us that truth often depends on courage. In many cases, the key to solving a crime comes from someone who decides to speak up. One phone call, one honest moment, can change everything. Justice is not built by investigators alone. It is built by communities that care enough to act. When people choose courage over silence, darkness loses its power, and hope begins to return.